So here we are. We're back again, D.H.E show, talking. We don't really talk dads, husbands, entrepreneurs. We talk entrepreneur a lot.
We don't talk a lot of dad husband stuff because, well, we just don't right now.
Yeah.
We will at some point, right? I mean, like we can talk about dad husband stuff. Like, you know, I'm trying to think of the most exciting thing that's happened in my life in the last couple of days with my kids.
See, that's why we don't talk about it. We talk about business because that's what we're doing every day.
Well, we're being dads and husbands every day, but it's a completely different, I mean, right? Like, it's just stressful because every day is like a battle. Like, you know, case in point, the other day, my wife is all over me. Like, she's like, you yell at the kids too much. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm yelling, but I'm also a very loud person. So if you don't know me, I'm yelling. But to me, it's just like, you probably got used to how loud I am. I'm not a quiet human. And so everybody's like, you're yelling. I'm like, shut the fuck up. I'm not yelling. God damn it.
My wife used to always tell me this story. Her mom the kids would say, Mom, you're yelling at me. And she'd say, this isn't yelling. This is yelling.
Oh my God.
And the kids would just look at her in terror and start crying.
Yeah. I mean, that's my daughter's like, you're raising your voice. I'm like, dude, you're going to get yelled at some point in life, hon. Like, just, we got to work on this. I'm not trying to be an a-hole. Like, if you didn't slap your brother for the 7th time, I wouldn't raise my voice.
Yeah.
But it is funny, like on a side note, how often, and we were talking about this today, like how it just comes full circle, like the shit that our parents used to do to us and how we used to be like, no, we don't want to go. Like we said, we went up to Duluth to look at some big ships and stuff. And we're driving up Highway 61 and my wife and like, scenic way or non-scenic way. And like, we're like scenic way. And the kids are like, no, we don't want to go the scenic way. It's going to take too long. I'm like, dude, like how do they know that? And B, it's completely full circle. Like, it's amazing that whatever you hate as a kid, you're going to love as an adult. And then all of a sudden you're going to be like, dude, yeah, we're doing this to our kids.
Yeah. It's just the way it works, man. That is a perfect transition into what we're going to talk about today.
Why?
Because we're going to talk about pivoting and when you need to change directions in business. Kind of like when you're a kid, you got a vision of the way the world is and you don't realize shit until you get older and you're like, oh yeah, I was a complete idiot. Well, that happens in business all the time, right?
Yep.
You get stuck on a path, you got a vision, you think you know the way. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but at some point you're most likely going to have to make a pivot in what you're doing and why, right? We had a big one last week when we were down talking with the broker for Sprouts on packaging and not the packaging design, but like the actual product itself and the size and everything else, which is going to be a big pivot for the company.
It's a major pivot that I think we knew in the back of our minds was maybe going to have to happen, but we didn't think it was going to have to happen. Right? Like, if that makes sense, right? Like, we knew the possibility was there. We just didn't realize how quickly it was going to come. And so for us, it's been a unique experience, right? Like, we knew it was coming, but that was the moment where like, we're gonna have to do it, which was crazy, right? Because we'd already started down the process of doing a bunch of different things, and then we spent a crap load of money, and now it's like, oh wait, no, you guys are almost done with this. That's not the most important thing. So stop doing that. I know it's frustrating, but
what do you mean?
We're going down the 10-count box route, right?
Yeah,
and that's not the most important thing at the moment because the 10-count box, unless we get into massive big discount retail, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
The 10-count box for retail is going to matter. So in the 10-count box for retail, it has to be based off the 23-gram sachet, not 33, which means smaller box, smaller footprint.
Yeah.
But so like, there's just a million pieces that like we're almost into production of those 10-count boxes.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
boom.
So I'm going to back up a little bit just so everyone can follow what we're actually talking about here. What are we, 8 months old? How old is the company? I
mean, we celebrated our 1-year anniversary on May 23rd without any fanfare.
Oh shit!
But I think we should really like make the new birthday for the company like
November,
December 1, because that makes sense. Really, that is really when everything, more or less went into effect. It was December 1st, right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I would say December's our anniversary.
All right, so December is the anniversary. So we have 3 flavors of Switchback. We have Banana Berry Bite, Tropic Roar, Jungle Mango.
Yep.
And the sachet is the packet that the product comes in is a 33-gram pouch.
Yep.
That 33-gram pouch was developed with what in mind? Why did you land on 33 grams?
33 gram was solely designed because that's exactly what I made in my blender every morning. I took the formulation of what I put into my blender because we weighed everything out. We're neurotic about our smoothies. And I put that in, and that is literally what came out of it, was 33 grams of freeze-dried product out of like 26 ounces of.
I thought you landed on 33 grams so you could be at 4 cups of fruits and veggies.
No, 33 grams was purely based off of what I made in my smoothie every morning.
So it was kind of an arbitrary number.
Always arbitrary. I've told you
Dude,
that.
I thought there was like a big epiphany that 33 grams was... No way.
No, because you could theoretically go down to 30 grams.
Yeah.
So it was really...
But you still had to hit the... I mean, didn't you want to hit 4 cups of fruits and veggies?
Yeah, which is why we changed Tropic Roar in the last production run. Why we changed Tropic Roar to get everything to 4. It was not that originally. Originally, it boiled down to 2 things. One, what was actually made in the blender, right? So what we made in the blender when we freeze dried it, what was the weight? And then 2 was finding the right water ratio, right? Because I didn't want to drink a swamp water. I didn't want just this thin green crap. I mean, there's a fucking lake right there. I can go drink out of that if I want that. What we did was purely around so it had to find an ounce, right? You didn't want 7 ounces. So originally we looked at, and I know it's kind of a little bit different of a tangent, but it's interesting. We originally looked at 28 grams. I mean, think about that. That shaves off, I don't know, 15, 20 cents a smoothie.
Yeah.
But to 28 grams, like if you put 28 grams into 8 ounces of water, it's significantly more watery. So then what do you go, 7 ounces? Well, no, because 7, who the hell is going to measure out 7 ounces? So with the retail, the 23, you go down to 6 ounces, right? So 23 grams sachet.
Don't jump
ounces.
ahead to that yet.
Yeah.
I want to, this is kind of an aha for me because I've been doing product development forever, right? For years and years and years and years. To hear you say that you picked the weight and the size of the smoothie packets today solely based on what you made in the kitchen kind of blows my mind. Not in a bad way. It's just like that's the reality for most people, especially with food brands. When they're starting out a food company or they're trying to sell a recipe that they created in their kitchen, they just think about what they make for their family in their kitchen, and they don't think about scaling it up, and they don't do market research, customer research, and all that stuff to figure out what size should we have.
Yeah, and I think when we looked at price originally, I was talking price to my dad. It was interesting because, Matt, I think the funny part, right, was our pricing was actually right in line with what we thought would work. Because I mean, our competitive product set from day one was like a naked juice. I never compared us to supplements because we're not a supplement. They're junk. We're not. So I was looking at a naked juice. I'm like, well, we're actually cheaper than a naked juice, or significantly cheaper than a naked juice in many cases. So I didn't see any issue with that. But I also, as I designed it, that was the other piece. Like everybody I was giving these out to, the feedback was like, yeah, this is awesome. We love the flavor. We love the texture. So I didn't really deviate to think based off of price point. We talked about this last week. Like 99.9% of brands, legacy brands, build something to a price point. They're trying to create something on a shelf specifically based off of purely a price point.
Price is super important.
And that's a major component. Whereas I never once I thought more about nutrition, but that's one of the pivots because people don't necessarily think about their nutrition and what they're getting as much as they think about price. So someone's buying a Mountain Dew. We had a guy over the other day, and the guy's like, yeah, I drink a Mountain Dew and I have a Snickers bar every morning. And I'm like, so you basically spend $6 on breakfast, $5 on breakfast, $5.50 with junk. And he's like, yeah, but I like it. And I was like, $5.50, and it's just I can't register that, right?
Yeah.
And so it just kind of opened up this whole mindset for me that the majority of people they don't care about the nutrition, they care about the price, and they care about, do you enjoy it?
Well, yeah. So when we would go to develop products in the past, I mean, we'd have 6 different recipes, and it would be about, price point was super important, right? Like how much did the formula cost to make these? But then you'd put it all through sensory and figure out which one do people actually like, right? Instead of us making the call, we let our people tell us which one they like the most. And we would usually land on 2 or 3. And then we would go into, okay, these are the 2 flavors they like. How do we market these? What do we talk about? What's in the product itself that we can now go scream? Which is why you see a lot of products out there that talk about shit that really doesn't matter, but it's bold. And people are like, oh, well, that must matter because the manufacturer put it on the front of the box and called it out. And it's the fiber stuff that we see all over the place.
Well, right? Not only that, but it's the word superfood. Superfood, there's no fucking regulation on the term superfood.
Right.
There's no defined superfood category that's not regulated, but you see it everywhere. Superfood, dude, it's only superfood that actually has fucking nutrients, man. Like, so I totally get what you're saying, but they'd be like, oh, I love this superfood smoothie. Light bulb, we're calling it a superfood smoothie, and all of a sudden people are going to buy it even though there's like no nutrient call out. Yeah, dude, it's wild.
Yeah.
It's crazy how consumers think.
So we have 3 products today. They're 33 grams based on what you made in your kitchen. And they're great. They taste great. Everyone loves them. We all like them too. But the feedback that we've gotten, not only on our website, but especially as we start to look at retail, is that 33 grams is a bit expensive for one sachet. How do we get to a lower price point, which is where this pivot comes in, right?
Yeah, and there's a caveat there, right? This is extremely expensive. Like the 33 versus 23 in this case, we have to go through a distributor. We have to go. There's a lot of channels.
Hold on, you're talking about breaking into retail.
But my point is, like, I think there is like 33 can work for retail depending on where, and 23 in this case, I was unaware of all of the frictional costs, the nearly 30% additional cost that goes into it to hit a retail shelf because everybody touching it, promotional, etc. So it's a really interesting, not to say that it doesn't work. And I think that's a thing for us to know, particularly in the pivot discussion, is like, we're not leaving it, but for this one category, we have to, right?
Yeah. I mean, it makes us look at the product formulation differently and saying, all right, if retail is the play, which it is, we want to be in retail, can we do it with the current product? Or do we need to just admit, oh, okay, fine, this product doesn't work. We have to go invest and create this other line of stuff so that we can hit the price point, so that we can get in that channel, so that we can be successful. Like how many founders even have that conversation? Or they'd be like, nope, 33 grams is it, and that's it. This is the product. I'm not going to invest in something different.
Well, like I've said, I mean, I'm open to all discussions on this product except for removing all the greens, right? Because like in my mind, and I've told you this, I think probably from day one, like I will change anything. We can go smaller pack size. The only things we're not going to do is we're not going to say, 23 grams with 20 ounces of water, because then it's just a swamp water and it's fucking nasty. The second thing is, I'm open, like, and I think you know this, like I'm open to any pivot change if we have to, with the exception of eliminating the greens. Because like the whole point of this company, in my mind, is I don't want to eat a salad every day. So this makes me feel really good that before my bike ride, after bike ride, I can have 3.5 cups of vegetables with a cup of fruit. And now I don't need to sit there and worry about getting the giant salad in. Does that make sense? Like, so as long as you don't eliminate the greens, and so I think a lot of founders, like, you're not calling my baby ugly. You're just saying that my baby needs some surgery on an arm.
Is that what I'm saying?
I think you're just saying like the arm needs to be surgically changed, and we're gonna do it, and we'll never know as soon as it gets old.
Okay, I don't know how to respond to that.
I mean, you're used to me now. You're used to the stupidity.
No, the baby's not ugly. The product's great. It's just, depending on where you're trying to sell things, you've got to make sure that it's product market fit, right? Have you heard that term? You've got to make sure that what you're trying to sell on the channel you're trying to sell it is going to work.
Yep.
Like our product as is today, the 33 grams, it's fine to sell in e-commerce. It's harder. It's still going to be harder because we do get pushback on pricing. That's where marketing comes in. You've got to be able to tell the story to convince people to pay the price. Ferrari's not complaining that they're too expensive, right? They're not going, oh, guys, we got to make a cheaper car. No, they're saying we need to make an even better, more expensive car, and people are willing to pay for it because of the brand, which is hard. You got to get there.
Yeah, but you've talked about a lot, and I think about that a lot of brands. Like there are the brands that actually offer value, right? Like, so I think about it, right? You walk through the produce section of a grocery store, you don't go, well, fuck, those Driscoll's berries are expensive. No, you're like, dude, Driscoll's, yeah, they've got a premium product. I'm going to pay $1 more for Driscoll's versus the, whatever. And it takes time to build up, and it's a lot of education. In that case, it's passed down from generation to generation, right? But I think it's a major component of what we're trying to battle. It's educating the consumer on why is this such a good deal?
Yep.
Because it is a smoking value, particularly in today's hyperinflationary world.
Yeah. So in the e-commerce channel, telling that story, building that brand, getting people to understand the value proposition, we can sell the product in its current form. Going to someone like Costco or Sam's Club or BJ's, some of these club stores where they're used to having bigger ticket items, slightly higher rings per purchase, we can sell the product in its current form, right? And we could make a business just doing that. That could be everything we do, is We're Costco, we're BJ's, we're Sam's, we're Ecom, which would be amazing, right? That could be a gigantic business by itself. But we believe strongly that there's an opportunity to go after retail in general, hence meeting with Sprouts and some of the other people last week. But we got to be open to the feedback then. I think so many founders go and meet with retailers in particular, and they hear the advice or the feedback from the retailers and like, well, screw you. You don't know what you're talking about. And they don't take the advice at all. And they bang their head against the wall wondering, why can't I get my product into X, Y, and Z stores?
I think in that case, right? Like, I'd be curious in that meeting. I mean, he said some things I was like, but I was like, well, it makes sense. And so we control the packaging, we control the design, we control the messaging on the package. And in that case, as long as if we go to 23, then it has to say mix with 6 ounces of cold water. And if someone mixes it with 10 and they're like, oh, I didn't like it, like, that's your problem. You didn't follow the directions. Right? Like, I think there's that component to me, because I think as a founder, I want everything to be perfect. And I'm like, I want everybody to love this, which not everybody's going to love it. Right? Like, it's green and it's whatever. But I think that's like my biggest hiccup with, like, I'm open to pretty much changing anything that we need to, but we just need to make sure that we control that user experience as much as we can. And the only way we can do it is by saying, like, hey, you need to mix this with 6 ounces. Right?
So what happens, devil's advocate? What if the overwhelming feedback is, yeah, I like these products, but I just want fruits. I don't like the greens part of it. Are you open to changing that?
I mean, we can.
Because you just said I'm open to changing anything.
I don't know if in the short run, because I think it kind of defeats our messaging. You're going to get fruit's great. Fruit's really good for you. But if it's not the core focus of what we're going after, right? So let me just summarize. In the next 12 months, no, we got to focus in this space with the caveat. If this guy came back and said, if you come up with a 23 gram fruit powder, blah, 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 you buy $1 million. Okay, maybe. But I don't know if there's a clamor. Like, dude, there's 100 fucking options in the market for pure fruit crap. That's our differentiation, right? At some point, you got to take a stand and be willing to stand. And I don't think a pure fruit smoothie is the best option for your body. I think that it's a great way to mask the greens and hide the greens and get the greens in your body. Would I go to half the amount of greens? Absolutely. I mean, if we came back, and I think our food science firm right now, I told them, like, hey, I want you to formulate with half the amount of greens. And so we'll be interested to see, like, because at the end of the day, right, if you go 23 gram, so we go 3.5 third, we're going like 2.5 cups of vegetables. Even if you drop down to like 1.7, that's still more vegetables than the average American gets in the day. So, and it would make it significantly less green. Yeah. So I'm open. But here's the caveat. And if you're listening and you're going to rip us off, like, go for it. The moment you take out veggies, which is so counterintuitive, the fruits are the most expensive portion of our smoothies. So you're just going to end up with a more expensive smoothie on the market if you go all fruit, unless you go with all banana, which nobody wants all banana. Like, I got 3 emails over the weekend from people. I really want to buy your smoothies, but I'm allergic to banana, or I can't have banana, or I'm like, wow, I didn't know so many people are banana averse.
I talk a lot about, you got to listen to the retailers. They have a perspective. They've seen hundreds and hundreds of things too, but also you've got to take a stance on what you are. Like, I think if Sprouts or anybody came to us and like, yeah, we like this, but you know, here's the price point and it can't have greens. I'd be like, well, that defeats the point. Like, we are trying to actually make people healthier and better. Like, that is our mission. And we fundamentally believe that you have to have a mix of real foods to do that.
I mean, the whole thing, eat the rainbow. Like, if you look at our actual smoothies, like, you're eating the rainbow in every one of our smoothies. We have different color veggies, fruits, etc. So like pivoting, right? Like, that's a pivot into from 33 to 23. Totally cool with. I think at the end of the day, like, right, well, the whole pivot for us is like, it's being willing to maybe have guardrails or parameters of like what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. And I agree. Like, if they came back and said, hey, we really think this will work, it's not really our brand, right? Our brand is to empower people to fundamentally change their health and nutrition. I don't see fruit empowering people to do that, just pure fruit, because there's not enough there. Unless we came out with like a 30 cups of vegetable or 30 cups of fruit in one smoothie.
30?
Yeah, I'm being facetious, dude. Because you see all the dumb shit marketed by the supplement guys, like, we have the antioxidant equivalent of 90 cups of fruits and vegetables. I'm like, you're a fucking idiot, but you still have no nutrient. You have antioxidants, but you have nothing else. So that's cool. Feed the cancer, bro. Have you not seen that an over antioxidants is linked to a higher incidence of cancer? So if you go like these massive doses of antioxidants are linked to higher incidence of cancer rates amongst people. There's been huge studies done in the last 12 to 18 months. They're basically saying like that supplement that gives you, 40 cups of vegetable, the antioxidant equivalent of 40 cups of vegetables or fruits, is actually really unhealthy for you. Like having that massive dose is not as healthy as trying to like actually stay within the realm. It's pretty interesting science. Anyway.
Fake news.
There
was also a study out a couple years ago that red meat dramatically increases your chance of cancer, which technically it does dramatically increase it from 0.0006 to 0.01. It's a dramatic increase, but the overall increase is still minute.
Dude, and
I'm making those numbers up, but the point is still the same.
I could go off on a funny tangent on that.
We're gonna get back. We're not gonna talk about cancer. Let's go to. I want to go back to the pivot then, and I'm totally interrupting you, but I think like you and I have talked a lot about this. You've got to have your guardrails. I love that analogy or the way that you framed it, because here's what happens, right? I was on the food service team at Land O'Lakes. Food service is different than retail, but food service is dealing with all the restaurants, right? There's a lot of restaurants in this country. A lot. Way more restaurants than there are retailers. And every chef and every restaurant has their little perspective on how things need to be.
Yep.
So take butter as an example. As simple as butter is, Land O'Lakes, right? That's what they make. The different kinds of flavors and things that people wanted in the butter would blow your mind. And until I got into that role, Land O'Lakes, literally the sales team would come with a request. I would like a blueberry flavored butter. Okay, we'll make that. I'd like a honey flavored butter, cinnamon flavored butter. I would like a whatever. Pick the flavor that you'd want, and Land O'Lakes would go try to make it. And before you know it, you've got 50 recipes serving all of these different people because they're chasing volume. And R&D and the operations team wakes up one day and they're like, holy shit, we're losing our ass because we have no efficiency in any of this production. We're making all these one-offs here and there. Yeah, we got volume. Yes, we're selling shit in, but we are losing our ass in margin because we suck at inventory and ingredients and all that stuff, right? Which this happens with people, especially in the food space, that just go listen to all the feedback and constantly tweak products. As you wake up one day and you're like, oh my God, we're making 50 things and we're losing our ass because nothing's efficient.
Yep.
Right? Like it can get out of control really quick if you don't have guardrails and you don't stick for something and get efficient at it.
Oh, big time. I think that's why a lot of companies go away from that, and they're not set up to do that, right? So what was the moral of the pivot in that? Like you pivoted away from it, you pivoted like what was the pivot?
Stood up a whole they went to the extreme, but we stood up a whole innovation pipeline process, and it's called stage gate. It's complicated. I think it's excessive, but every single project and every new business opportunity had to be evaluated based on set criteria from now on.
How much blueberry butter could possibly be ordered?
I mean, think if it's like Cracker Barrel or one of those giant breakfasts.
I never thought about that. Yeah, because they're buying this butter, right? And they're buying an asinine amount for their whole chain. I'm thinking like Tom's Diner or like
exactly.
like a high end steakhouse. Like I'm like, but still, they can't go through that much butter.
If Tom's Diner and they're two restaurants, which is not a real thing, but if they were the ones like, hey, we really want this blueberry flavored, no.
Sorry if you're Tom and you own a diner, we apologize.
Right, which by the way really pisses off the salespeople because they're all just flying, trying to sell shit, right? Like they're doing everything they can.
I'm a sales guy, right? You want to sell everything because everybody tells you it's the greatest opportunity and we're going to become massive. We're going to do this. Like I fell for that so many times in insurance, and will still fall for it probably another million times because I'm like at the heart of me, I love to make people happy and I love to grow business, but. I mean, I totally understand. So, in our world of pivot, I think it's broader than just going from 33 to 23, Matt, because we've talked about this. Like, when do you pivot away from strategies that either are or aren't working? Like we were doing some packing videos for TikTok, and we didn't see any real traction in, the first 4 weeks, and you just stopped. We just stopped. We pivoted away. Was that enough time to determine the success or viability of that? And I think that that's kind of the question that, as an entrepreneur, you got to move fast. You got to pivot. But when do you pivot? When do you say like, okay, this really isn't working. We need.
Yeah.
Do you like, so I think that's the piece that everybody's going to struggle with.
I think to bring it back to what we were talking about earlier, I think that you've got to, as a business, you've got to identify areas where you can move quick, right? Like social media as an example, messaging, marketing, that sort of stuff, especially when you're beginning and you're testing and trying to learn stuff. I think you pivot quick and you try things, but you also got to give enough time to actually see, is this going to resonate? When it comes to product and the product specifications and selling into retail, that's where, to me, it's different, because you should, as a company, especially a food company, but really any company that's making products, you should be doing the research ahead of time to understand what do people actually want in the first place, right? And you should then be developing product into that, so that when you go to present to retailers and they have, or wherever, and they have questions, well, why'd you do it this way? What about this? What about that? It's like, well, this is what we did and why we did it and how and what the feedback has been, and here's what our customers are telling us. The one caveat though, and why last week I thought was eye-opening, is I'll pivot even faster though if the advice is coming from someone who has already done what we've done. And they're looking at us going, guys, we've been through this with 50 other companies. You have to make this change or it's not going to work. Sorry, you have to.
I think there's a caveat to that though, right? Of, do they know what they're talking about in your space? This guy knows our space. He knows.
That's
us.
what I'm saying. Yes.
Whereas like I look at how many people
in your space.
I look at how many people we've briefly worked with who are experts in something, and they're not fucking like what they did for, Jimmy over here and Susie doesn't even remotely work for us, because we're a completely different product with a different price point.
You're talking back to e-com and marketing and
like we know, and I think we've talked enough about pivoting into the 23 gram, because they're telling us we need to.
Yeah,
we're saying absolutely, formulation staying the same. We just dial it back. We do this, blah blah blah. What I'm saying though is like, you got to know when to pivot. Like that I think that's an easy pivot. That's something like, if you don't make, you're just an idiot. And I don't know if are there a lot of people that would,
but it's only easy if you get people that are in your corner, or you get people who have great expertise to help you with that. You were talking about the social media, the marketing world. We've used some people who said they've worked with companies like ours, but they haven't, and gave us bad advice, right? The guy last week that we met with, the broker that gave us the advice, we know for certain that he's launched food brands like ours. If it was some other broker that was trying to convince us that they were good and we didn't do our research and we didn't know that they were legit and we took their advice, we'd completely founder. Does that make sense?
No,
it's only easy for us to go fast on his recommendation because we know he's legit.
And he knows what he's talking about.
Without any doubt.
No, I 100%. And I think it's a piece, right? It's like, trust your, at the end of the day too, I think like when it comes to pivoting, like trust your gut is a big componentry too.
You think so?
I think so. I mean, like, dude, remember last year when we used a marketing firm and I was really pissed off and like I wanted to fire him in July, and then you came in, you're like, well, maybe we need to give him another month. And like, I was like, dude, this is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we gave him another month. Then we're like, oh, well, maybe we should. And I was like, the whole time, like I wanted to fire him immediately. Then you were like if we just trusted our gut, we would have saved ourselves a, 35, 40 grand in marketing costs right there. Right.
In that particular instance, I think your gut is stupid when it comes to business. I think your gut is fine with people, but I've always been a fan of trust the data, not trust your gut.
I don't disagree, but like also at the same time, right? If you're small, you don't have the data. We don't have data.
That's why we got to get people. That's what I'm saying. Like you got to have experts that are vetted and validated to help guide you. But that's why board of directors are so important.
But in this case, if we said to this guy, if we go to the meeting and I'm like, well, if I'm sitting there saying, well, like I'm just not going to move, like my gut was to trust this guy, right? Like my instinct was to trust him because of his expertise. And like he was, but if I walked in there, I was like, man, Matt, I really don't trust this guy. Like he may know what he's talking about, but I just don't, this is not feeling good. Then I need to tell you, like, Matt, this is not the guy I want to use. You look at me and go, you're a fucking idiot. But at the same time, like if you don't air that, if you don't say that, if you don't trust what you're feeling, you're going to end up in a bad relationship. Like I should have 2.5 years ago realized I was walking into some bad relationships. I didn't, because I wished them good. I was smoking the hopium pipe. Like I was doing all this stuff that was really bad, that was really not good, because I was desperate. Right. So it makes sense. Like in those situations, the moment I had an inclination, like this doesn't feel right, I should have spoken up and made that pivot.
Yeah.
Because if you're feeling that it's not right, it probably isn't right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Very infrequently do you go like, man, I don't feel good about this. And then it turns out really well. Like you're like, it just,
I'm with you.
What else on pivoting do you want to talk about?
I mean, the big one that I thought was important or helpful to talk through was on the product side. There's a million other things that we will talk about in other episodes, pivoting in other areas where it's not as important. But with product, you have to nail the product. Like that is what you're selling at the end of the day. So if you're not 100%, in line, you know exactly why you're doing what you're doing and for who. Like you got to figure that part out, and you do need to make some changes. But once you as a company feel really great about the products and it's validated, then to me pivoting's done. Like no more changes. Like go sell the shit. If it is made for the right reasons, if it hits the price point and it does everything else, then you just need to go get the story and the brand.
I like it. What's your win of the week?
My win of the week?
I know what your win of the week is. If you don't say it, I'm going to come over there and fucking tackle you.
Running?
Oh,
marathon?
Really? Someone punch this fucker.
Dude, I ran the Fargo Marathon last week and I broke 4 hours for the first time in my life. Dude, it was a mind trip. I already told you this, but so I have a problem when I run, right? Like Abby's laughing, Oli's going to laugh in a second because I'll call these guys in the middle of my runs. Like, because I when I train for marathons, I run just a slow, reasonable pace where I can talk, and my mind goes crazy in a good way, and I'm like, I gotta call Abby, I gotta call Oli. So I was at mile 12 or 13. No, it was even further. I think mile 14 or so, and I'm feeling great in the marathon, and I was like, I should call Oli because I called you last year when I did the marathon, and I put my earbuds in, and I'm going to call Oli, and I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna put music on instead. So I put music on and then my adrenaline went nuts because my playlist was going and I was getting all excited. And now I'm running fast and I look at my watch and I go, oh shit, I still got 11 miles to go. My adrenaline's going crazy. And then I realized, yeah, but you're on pace to actually break your time. Like, holy shit, like relax, slow down, and then go. And I didn't call you guys, but I did. I broke 4 hours and I was super excited. That was my win.
That's a huge win, dude.
Thanks.
You've been training for that for a long time.
And now the next one comes in a few months.
Now he's got to break 3:30, otherwise we kick him in the nuts.
That's going to be hard at Twin Cities, but I'm going to give it a go.
I mean, dude, Minneapolis is flat. There's no hills in that race.
The last 7 miles is almost all uphill.
Is that all along the Mississippi?
The last 6 or 7 miles is.
Yeah, that's insane.
So that was my win. What was yours?
My win, man, I don't know. Like I didn't come prepared to think about wins. I was just excited to have a wonderful week. Let me see. I think the win of the week for me would probably be the fact that we got we got a lot of clarification on our retail presence. That was a big pivotal move. So now we can move in one direction. We know for a fact to win at what I'm going to say be the majority retail needs to be 23 grams. So we can get after it and we can get going. And I'm really stoked about that because that is a huge weight off my shoulders. And now we can stop screwing around with other things and just say 23 is the path forward.
Nice. I think that's a big win.
It's huge.
I think it's going to be exciting when we get the new product and start slinging it.
Stoked.
Cool. All right, man. Well, enjoy the week. Go kick some ass.
Yeah, let's go. Go fucking run.
Let's go run. Here we go. All right. Peace.